Okay, so here's why you should be buying Bitcoin and not altcoins. Okay, essentially, when you're in a downtrend like this and times are looking pretty bearish, okay, although I think it can be quite tempting to look at some of these altcoins that have dropped quite significantly from their highs, there's a reason why I converted pretty much all of my altcoins about 8 weeks ago from altcoins into Bitcoin, because it protects you from the volatility, okay? And really, in times like this, what it's going to do, okay, is usually to lead the market out, it's likely going to be Bitcoin first anyway. So if you're holding Bitcoin, it will likely, in my opinion, outpace the altcoins anyway. And if you move further down, it's obviously, well, pretty much most of the time, you're definitely going to get money flowing out of the altcoins into something that's a little bit more stable and safer into Bitcoin. So this is where either way, I think if the market moves up, I think Bitcoin will lead. If the market moves down, I think Bitcoin will be the stronger asset to hold, because you're typically you're not going to get as big a price drawdown with Bitcoin. And remember, if prices go a little bit lower, you are going to be able to buy your altcoins a little bit cheaper if you have the patience. So that's what I would be holding Bitcoin. So yeah, and that's basically how I would be looking at it. When it comes to the main alts, here's how I'm looking at it as well. Okay, I think whilst Bitcoin is looking very weak at the moment, I think the altcoins look a lot worse. If you look at this pattern here, has played out time and time again in history. When it comes to Bitcoin, a lot of these descending patterns do tend to break to the downside. So just be wary of that. But like I said, I'd be happy to just be holding my Bitcoin here and just adding anywhere between 25,000, 28,000 up to 30,000. Okay, I'd be happy to add at those ranges. But I do think that a lot of these altcoins can make lower lows, whilst Bitcoin actually can either remain in and around 30,000, because I've seen this before as well. If you look back in previous bearish times or bear markets, I remember back in 2018 in that summer, Bitcoin was just hammering the floor at in these times was hammering the floor around sort of 6 to 7k. Okay, and every drop that we got in Bitcoin, okay, was a harsher drop in the altcoins, okay, and when Bitcoin rose, the altcoins didn't rise so much. So if you look at during this period between the 2017 peak up to those 9 months in November the 7th, 18, okay, if you look at that in the altcoins, what that actually looked like, okay, was a different story. So you can see here, when we had that peak back in Jan, okay, it was just continually still here in August. Just look at Ethereum was just making lower lows until you got that final capitulation that Bitcoin got. But in that time, like, you know, Bitcoin was still making a floor at these prices, but you know, the value of all these altcoins were just absolutely just crashing and plummeting. So I'd be very patient on those, okay? And like I said, look out for those triangle patterns. Some things to look out for as well, and some levels to watch out for. If you look at the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin, any break between 605 billion, I'd be looking at all coins to drop potentially down to at least this peak over here, okay, at about 450 billion, and that also gives you some cluster of support around this area. So that's basically what I would be looking at as the first line of sort of support. Obviously we can go a lot lower than that, but remember, we've just had a behemoth move, so the bigger the move, usually the bigger the correction, okay? So that's something else to bear in mind. And if you just look at the total crypto cap again, that's sort of on the slide as well, and the levels that I've got marked out as 1 trillion for market cap, and 870 billion around this cluster as well, as levels to watch out for should we go any lower. Okay, so this area here as well. So these are my alerts, and then I may be interested in looking at altcoin prices and kind of seeing where we're at with that. So yeah, and in terms of like actually prices for some of these, altcoins, this is where I personally would be looking at buying. Okay, I would be buying Ethereum somewhere in the region of 13 to 1400, 1200, somewhere in this region over here is where I would be happy to be buying Ethereum add into my stack. Not quite yet. I do think it's a bit early. I think although ADA has really been like remarkable in the strength that it showed, and I was really thinking at some point that this would have fallen a lot further even earlier, but because we got this big push up in late May, this basically meant that the next subsequent drop down was just basically going back to previous support levels. I think that this can break. I still wouldn't be buying ADA now. It just doesn't look that great, even though you are getting these puncturing wicks down here on higher time frames. I wouldn't be buying anything, above $1. I just wouldn't. I'd be looking at regions of anywhere between sort of 40 cent to 70 cent would be a really, really good buy. In my opinion, that will give you a flash sale. And what else was I looking at? DOT has absolutely fallen off a cliff. I wouldn't even touch this until maybe we get some indication from the actual market in general. Okay, so when we actually maybe try to find a little bit of a bottom of Bitcoin, Ethereum, ADA, and some of the other main caps, I'd be looking at DOT, because this has actually just absolutely been pummeled from its peak. It's already down 76%, and when you compare that to other similar protocols, like Cardano, for example, it's really taken a massive beating. Link as well. Prices that I would be personally looking at, I'd be looking at this region, somewhere in this region, although this is fairly vague, somewhere between $8 and $5. I'd be looking at entering Link and buying some positions here, okay, into that sort of zone of and cluster of support, because I do think that in the future these, the prices of these cryptos will go higher, and it's just about basically sort of holding your nerve and just buying and just having a systemized strategy, which maybe I can go over in another video, about how I systemize my my DCA buys and how I do it. Okay, so that's basically what I'd be looking at. Theta as well is taking a massive beating. I don't actually own any Theta, but this just looks like it wants to completely break, to be honest with you, and really drop down to whatever level it's going to drop down to, which is somewhere between, I would imagine, first line of support for me would be here, and then maybe the next line after that would be here. So I always just look at regions when you look at these altcoins, because you're never trying to pick like the absolute bottoms. You're never going to get that, okay? And you want to look at previous declines in the past, because although Theta's thing has dropped about 75%, it's actually kind of fairly common for altcoins to drop somewhere between 80 and 90% plus. Okay, so where would that take you? And as well, it also depends on the magnitude of the actual drop. So if we were to say bounce up and down here, and because nothing goes straight down, right, then maybe we could start to carve out a bottom. But if we actually drop down really, really quickly, and we get like say a 90% drop without any bounces, that is a signal to me that maybe it's time to actually, I would be interested in taking that for a buy, because it's not, because you're expecting some kind of bounce at some point, and usually before, if you look at stuff like ADA, if you look at even the harshest drops you did, even after a 90% drop, you managed to still get a pump and a massive bounce of 220%. Okay, same here. You get a drop of say 70%, and you still get a bounce of basically the bounces can be pretty violent, 70% up here. So yeah, just something to think about when you're buying alts. So like I said, I would be personally sticking to Bitcoin. I'm not buying alts at the moment until I get any clear sign that a market direction is maybe changing course. And the longer that this goes on for, remember, cause and effect. The longer that this is unresolved, the bigger the next move. So basically, once this box is essentially, once we move either up or down from here, I would expect the next move to be fairly volatile, okay? And it might even be a move that not last very long. So if we move to the upside from here, and we can get maybe a move up to 47.50k or something like that. I would expect that to be fairly volatile, and if we move down again, I would expect that to be quite a volatile move, because that's going to be another 25, 30, 35% drop for Bitcoin if we can if we get that move. But best thing is honestly be patient, and that's basically the way that I'd be looking at the market at the minute when it comes to alts and Bitcoin. So yeah, and I'll catch you in the next video.